now for a look at what's been making headlines across the country here in A Week in France. French President Emmanuel Macron held an emergency defense council meeting at the Élysée Palace on Thursday to discuss Greenland and Iran, among other issues. He then visited a military base in the south of France. In his speech to the troops there, Macron highlighted the tense geopolitical situation and announced an increase in the French army budget. Nicholas Rushworth has the details.
A New Year's address to France's armed forces. The French President Emmanuel Macron visited the French military base of Istres in the south of France to express his ambition to give France the role of what he described as a credible force for stability. He said a response was needed to an unstable world marked by a proliferation of crises and threats.
The acceleration of dangers requires an acceleration of France's rearmament. To remain free, one must be feared. To be feared, one must be powerful. To be powerful in such a brutal world, one must act faster and stronger.
Among the threats are repeated statements by the U.S. President Donald Trump concerning the autonomous Danish territory of Greenland. Washington's statement suggests a possible annexation, citing national and international security concerns. Trump's claim that Russian and Chinese ships are patrolling Greenland's resource-rich coast has been repeatedly refuted. With no sign of an easing of tension, France is taking part in a limited military reconnaissance deployment to the island alongside Swedish, German, Norwegian, Finnish, Dutch and UK contingents. Denmark announced it would increase its military presence on Wednesday.
A first team of French forces is already on site and will be reinforced in the coming days by land, air, and sea.
The French president, meanwhile, has signalled an additional €3.5 billion this year for the French defence budget, with a target of 2% of GDP for defence in the years up to 2030.
France's far-right leader Marine Le Pen appeared in court on Tuesday to appeal an embezzlement conviction as her 2027 presidential ambitions hang in the balance. The National Rally leader told the judge her party wasn't aware of committing a crime when it siphoned millions of euros from European coffers between 2004 and 2016. Laurent Berstecker has the story.
A stern expression and not a word to the press. On the opening day of her appeal trial, Marine Le Pen was keeping a low profile. In court, the National Rally leader continued to deny any wrongdoing, but for the first time admitted she may have inadvertently broken the law.
If, as everyone seems to be saying, a crime has been committed, so be it. But I want it known that we didn't feel like we were committing a crime.
Last year, Le Pen was found guilty of misusing European Parliament funds to employ National Rally staff between 2004 and 2016. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison, fined €100,000, and handed a 5-year ban on standing for election. At the time, the judge accused her of being at the heart of a system set up to siphon EU funds. Le Pen, meanwhile, has repeatedly claimed her innocence and on Tuesday appeared to cast the blame on the European Parliament, saying it failed to notify her of any wrongdoing at the time. European prosecutors, meanwhile, said the institution wasn't responsible for overseeing the spending of every political party.
Let's not be mistaken. The real victim is the European Parliament, and therefore European citizens and French citizens, from whom she misappropriated and stole several million euros.
Before her conviction last year, Marine Le Pen was considered one of the frontrunners for the 2027 presidential election. Her appeal trial is now set to last 5 weeks and will determine her immediate political future.
France 24's Olivia Bizot has been covering the trial for us.
We're definitely noticing a shift during her trial last year. The defence was built purely on defiance. She famously attacked the court's legitimacy, and she dismissed the claims against her as a witch hunt, a political witch hunt. She talked often about the establishment fighting against her, preventing her from running in the 2027 elections. But that strategy completely backfired. She was then banned from running for political office, and that ban was put in place immediately. So that whole strategy has been scrapped, and that's evident already from the people in the room. She's brought in a second lawyer, and the objective is not necessarily to bring more support, but to actually distinguish between her two roles as the member of the European Parliament and as the leader of her party. The content of the legal strategy has also shifted. Yesterday in the courtroom, she said, and I quote, that she had no feeling of having committed the slightest offence. So she's not shouting, not guilty. The new line is responsible but not criminal. So there's a deliberate pivot to a lack of intent defence. Her lawyers are trying to argue that it was not a criminal conspiracy but an honest administrative mistake. And behind the scenes, Marine Le Pen has been working tirelessly with legal experts in order to try and find loopholes in EU employment regulation. So the objective this year is to win on a technicality as opposed to winning on an emotion, which was most of her strategy last year.
It's already mid-January and France still hasn't passed a budget. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has announced a series of amendments to the draft 2026 budget as he seeks to win the backing of the Socialist Party. But Lecornu warned that he would bypass Parliament to get it passed if he's left with no choice. Let's take a listen now to his remarks.
I would like to say that the government will not give up on compromise. We will work with the parliamentary groups that have the courage to put the general interest before their partisan interests. This is a time of great clarification for every political force. And for the government, it is time to set new budgetary directions to avoid any deadlock. I don't hesitate to say that this budget will be different from the initial one. It is better, it can bring people together, and I believe it is responsible.
Was a French researcher spying for China? A mathematics professor in the Bordeaux region has been questioned about colluding with a foreign power. In particular, he's suspected of allowing members of a Chinese delegation access to restricted and highly sensitive areas. Luke Shrego tells us more.
Did someone at the Bordeaux Polytechnic Institute in southwestern France hand over secrets to China? That was the question for investigators when they detained a mathematics professor on February the 11th last year at his home, before counter-espionage officers escorted him to his office for an in-depth search.
I was in shock, and the same for my colleagues who were in the lab, because there were 14 police officers wearing balaclavas who came in. Some thought it was a terror attack.
The lecturer and researcher is accused of allowing a delegation of Chinese professors into a part of this highly secure building, one strictly off-limits to foreign visitors. Following the incident, French intelligence services put him under surveillance. His research specialty in the arms industry and regular trips to China for conferences raised fears that sensitive information was leaking to a foreign country. Over the course of a year, investigators searched his computer with suspicions hardening, and the researcher was questioned in December. He denies the allegations.
The facts raised by the Paris public prosecutor seem implausible to me when you consider my client's personality. He's accused of not having followed protocol. There's a specific protocol for gaining access. I'll leave it at that.
Charged with colluding with a foreign power and with access to his laboratory revoked, the researcher is close to retirement and remains free under judicial supervision.
Now, when you think of France, many people imagine its cafes and bistros, the beating heart of French society. Now, President Macron wants those iconic gathering spots to be officially protected, launching a request for them to join the French baguette on UNESCO's cultural heritage list. Liza Kamenoff explains.
Every day for 40 years, she has sat down at this famous cafe in the center of Nice. Simone Eben is what you call a regular.
It's very good. I often come to drink a little coffee. I chat with all the waiters.
In the 1900s, there were 500,000 bistros in France. Today, less than 40,000 remain. This cafe is 130 years old, set up in a former butcher's shop on the route taken by the first passengers of the Paris-Lyon-Marseille railway line. Patrick Francois took over the cafe from his father in the 1980s. He has kept a few remnants from the past.
This coffee maker is turn of the century. It was one of the first. It's not very practical, but aesthetic.
Having grown up surrounded by the aroma of coffee, he recognizes the unique atmosphere in these cafes.
The people, the noise, the atmosphere. It's best when it's busy.
An hour's drive away, the villagers of Bouillon meet up at the local bistro to wish each other a happy new year.
We come here, we sit down, we chit-chat. It's perfect. It's just what we need.
It's a meeting place where people stop by to buy tobacco or sit down and read a newspaper over a cup of coffee. Marion Fabre has run this spot for 4 years, with both a service counter and a busy kitchen.
We see people before they go to work, we see them when they come back home, we see children growing up, so all this is really great.
While these cafes battle a winter revenue slump, recognition by UNESCO could provide a much-needed economic lifeline.
People come to see this rustic site, so if indeed we're listed by UNESCO, yes, it could certainly attract even more people.
3 years after the baguette made the list, France is hoping its bistros and cafes will be next in line for the UNESCO crown.